Imagine the chilling scenario. What if you fear arrest? What if the long arm of the law is reaching for you, not because you're guilty, but because of a misunderstanding, a false accusation, or even mistaken identity? What if you fear arrest for a crime you didn't commit? In India, anticipatory bail serves as your legal shield, a safeguard against potential injustice. It's a crucial mechanism embedded within the legal framework. It's pre-arrest bail, protection granted before you're actually taken into custody. Think of it as a proactive measure, a safety net woven to prevent unwarranted detention. However, it's important to note that anticipatory bail isn't universally applicable. It's available only in non-bailable offences, those more serious crimes where bail isn't a matter of right. And it can only be granted by the higher courts, ensuring careful consideration. The bedrock principle upon which this rests: innocent until proven guilty. Every individual is presumed innocent until the prosecution proves their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Why endure the harsh reality of jail, the loss of freedom, the stigma, if the accusation is baseless, unfounded, or simply a case of mistaken identity? Anticipatory bail is designed to protect not only your freedom, your physical liberty, but also your reputation, your standing in the community, and your peace of mind. But it's not automatic, it's not a given. Courts meticulously weigh the seriousness of the charge, the potential implications for society, and the impact on the victim, your prior criminal record, if any, and your history with the legal system, and the very real risk of fleeing the jurisdiction to avoid prosecution. Conditions are almost always attached. You must fully cooperate with the ongoing investigation, providing information and assistance as required. You absolutely cannot tamper with any evidence, influence witnesses, or obstruct the pursuit of justice. And crucially, you must not abscond. You must remain within the jurisdiction and be available for court appearances. The ultimate goal is to prevent the misuse of arrest powers, to ensure that arrest is not used as a tool for harassment or coercion, and to uphold your fundamental constitutional right to liberty, a right that is cherished and protected under the Indian Constitution. It's a vital check on the power of the state, ensuring that justice doesn't become punishment before a fair trial, before guilt is definitively established. Now let's delve into a particularly complex and controversial case, one that raises significant questions about the role of the judiciary and the balance of power within our legal system. This is a case that sparked national debate, igniting discussions across the country about justice, fairness, and the rights of individuals within the legal framework. At the heart of this controversy is a man accused of serious offenses by his estranged wife, leading to a complex legal battle with far-reaching implications. Facing potential arrest and legal proceedings, the accused sought anticipatory bail from the High Court, hoping to secure his freedom while the investigation unfolded. In a decision that would soon become the center of intense scrutiny, the court granted bail, a temporary release from custody. However, this grant of bail came with a shocking condition, a stipulation that defied legal norms and raised serious ethical concerns. The court mandated that, as a condition of his release, he must resume conjugal life with his wife, the very person who had brought the accusations against him. This extraordinary condition forced the complainant, the estranged wife, into an impossible and deeply unfair situation, undermining her rights and agency. Her personal choices, her safety, and her autonomy were effectively made a bargaining chip in a legal proceeding, a move that many saw as a grave injustice. The bail hearing, intended to assess the risk of flight or obstruction of justice, became a forum for what many perceived as forced mediation, blurring the lines between criminal justice and marital reconciliation. This approach seemed to ignore the gravity and seriousness of the criminal complaint itself, potentially trivializing the alleged offenses. Instead of prioritizing the protection of individual rights and ensuring a fair legal process, the court's order appeared to prioritize the preservation of marriage, seemingly at any cost. This decision raised concerns that the court was placing a higher value on the institution of marriage than on the woman's fundamental autonomy, her personal safety, and her right to make her own choices. The imposed condition was not only unusual, but also appeared to be entirely irrelevant to the core issues of the criminal case at hand. The condition was deeply coercive, potentially forcing the woman into a situation against her will and undermining her ability to participate freely in the legal process. This case exposed what many legal experts considered a troubling misuse of judicial power, raising serious questions about the boundaries of judicial authority and the potential for overreach. Bail conditions are meant to ensure justice, like appearing for questioning or not tampering with evidence. They must be reasonable, directly linked to the trial, and never punitive or impossible. The High Court's order to resume conjugal life had no connection to ensuring the accused's presence or a fair trial. Instead, it intruded into private life, using bail as a tool for social engineering. This was judicial overreach, transforming a legal safeguard into a means of coercion. Bail is about justice, not enforcing personal relationships. The Supreme Court, in a landmark decision, swiftly struck down the High Court's imposed condition. This condition, seen as regressive and out of touch with modern jurisprudence, was immediately challenged. It unequivocally declared that forcing a woman against her will to live with her accused husband, particularly in cases involving domestic disputes or allegations of abuse, as a bail condition, is not only inappropriate but also illegal. It is a gross violation of her fundamental rights, her personal liberty, and her inherent dignity as an individual. The court emphatically emphasized that bail hearings are strictly legal procedures and are not intended for moral policing or social engineering. They are certainly not a platform for enforcing outdated social norms, perpetuating patriarchal values, or dictating personal choices. Forcing cohabitation in such circumstances is nothing short of secondary victimization, compounding the trauma already experienced. It is akin to punishing the complainant, the victim, for daring to seek justice and redressal through legal channels. The Supreme Court's landmark decision unequivocally reaffirmed that a woman's autonomy, her right to make decisions about her own life and body, is absolute. Marriage does not and cannot erase her fundamental rights or diminish her inherent dignity. The ruling served as a clear and unambiguous message that courts, as guardians of justice, must always stay strictly within the boundaries of the law and must never, under any circumstances, impose patriarchal values or societal biases under the guise of judicial discretion. Marriage is not ownership. It is a partnership of equals. Every individual, regardless of their marital status, retains their fundamental rights, their personal freedoms, and their constitutional guarantees. The judgment powerfully reinforced the principles of equality before the law, liberty, the cornerstone of a just society, and the inherent dignity that must be afforded to all individuals, especially women, within the framework of our constitutional democracy. The Supreme Court's reasoning was rooted in the Constitution's guarantee of personal liberty and dignity. Forcing anyone into a domestic relationship against their will violates this right. Bail conditions must relate to the case. Resuming conjugal life is irrelevant to ensuring trial participation. The court rejected the patriarchal notion that women must preserve the family at any cost. A woman's choices and personal space are her own, fiercely protected by law. Marital disputes belong in civil courts, not criminal bail hearings. The Supreme Court restored clarity. Bail is about justice, not social compromise. This Supreme Court decision is a landmark for individual rights. It sets a precedent. Bail conditions must not intrude on personal lives or compromise dignity. Judges are reminded. Their role is to apply the law, not enforce social ideals. The ruling strengthens the boundary between state and private life, affirming the right to make personal choices. It's a victory for liberty, especially for women, whose rights are not defined by marital status. Justice must be empathetic, never coercive. The Supreme Court's message is clear. Autonomy is sacrosanct in the eyes of the law.